Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Hayley. It's wonderful as always to see you.
Yes, my favorite part of the week is having our conversations. And it's almost one of those things where it's like, it's almost here, and it's here.
And it's over.
And then it does go really quickly. I feel like the hour that we spend together, we talk about so much and it feels like it's 3 hours. And then it's just like, wait, that was just an hour.
Yeah.
And it does go quickly.
I'm really glad we decided to record these. And I let people know we don't care if there are 3 listeners or 300
No.
listeners or no listeners. This is about our souls doing a dance together.
I love that.
Yeah.
We all need to dance a little more.
Oh my goodness. Or at least imagine it.
We've got to. I think we should all shake it up a little bit every day.
Hayley, tell me how you're doing.
I'm feeling better, more settled. May was a really hectic month for me. I moved here into this new house. I had 2 retreats. So when people come and stay with me for 5 days, I had one in the beginning of May, one at the end of May. And during those retreats, it is one-on-one time with me, but we also go to the sites, which are pretty energetic. And there's a level of healing that happens at those sites. So going to the sites twice in 1 month was a lot. Lessons learned. I had these first set of retreats so I could kind of figure out what works, what doesn't work, and the different levels of people that would come. And the learnings are 1 a month maximum. Going to these sites, as beautiful as they are and as much as I enjoy them, going to them more than once a month is a lot. And then at the end of May, I had a retreat going on here, but we also had the full moon, the eclipse, which opened us into an eclipse window. So there was the eclipse on the 26th of May. That was a lunar eclipse. We have a solar eclipse next week on June 10th. So this window that we're in is what we consider an eclipse window. And it's an interesting energy to be in when you start considering all of the different synchronicities that line up from a solar system perspective to create these timings, like lunar eclipses, solar eclipses in different constellations, what that means, what the different planets are doing. So it's been a lot.
Do you actually feel the energy? There's a different energy around you?
Absolutely. So first I can feel it on a very basic level. I can feel the differences just in weather. So if the weather's if we're about to get rain, I will feel the drop in pressure. I will feel the change in humidity. And I feel it on a very sort of deep level that, okay, right, we're about to get rain. When it's from a solar perspective, I feel that more on a internal perspective, at a cellular perspective, which feels very much like electricity.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So I can.
Is that a pleasant feeling or an unpleasant?
It used to really freak me out because it is unpleasant. I'm not gonna lie to you. It is unpleasant, but I'm at the point now where I'm like, I know what this is. I know what to do with it. So my hands are always the first ones to sort of confirm that this is not just something internal with me, this is something bigger. So as the energy starts ramping up and as there are these big shifts in the solar system, my hands will just be on. So it's almost like they're buzzing and they get really, really hot. So I literally either put them on the ground or run water over them.
No kidding. How long does it last?
That will probably, the hands, just going on this experience, the hands thing lasted about 3 days.
Oh my goodness.
And then after that, it's more in the body. And there's moments where I'm like, where am I? Just because things move around. So things start breaking down to a very sort of atomic level.
Uh-huh.
I'll be looking at an ornament, for example, and I'll start to see that ornament sort of separating into the atoms.
Oh, no kidding.
Or I will be walking and all of a sudden I'll be like, is that me moving or is that all of that stuff moving?
Uh-huh. Now, do you feel drawn when your hands are in this state to do healing, laying on of hands or Reiki or anything?
No.
No? Because why?
I think some of that is psychological for me, something I still need to work through. I'm not entirely sure what to do with my hands. I have done hands-on healing, sort of the Reiki way,
Mhm.
and the people that have received it have really enjoyed it and felt different afterwards. For me, it's an interesting way because, first of all, I don't know how to explain it because it's not really Reiki. I'm not doing any of the Reiki symbols. And I'm not doing any of the sort of traditional energetic healing methods that have been documented and now are standardized.
Mhm.
So it's hard for me to explain it. And then I'm also just not entirely sure how powerful they are. Or
Mhm.
like when they're on like that and I can barely stand them, I most certainly don't want to go and touch anybody with them. I don't know how people are going to receive them. I used to date when I was married and we used to hold hands. He wouldn't be able to hold my hand for long because his hands would get so hot, so sweaty that he would
Oh,
have
no.
to shake them.
Oh,
So there's always been this awareness that my hands are these weird, like I don't
huh?
know what's going on with them. So put them in my
That's,
pockets.
it feels like you should be doing something with them, and I think you're wise not to feel that you have to do it in a traditional Reiki or any other way. It's a Haley Evans way.
Yeah. So I had, before COVID, I had done all of the Reiki certification to try and figure out, like, okay, how do we use the hands? And then
Mhm.
COVID happened, and that pretty much shut down any kind of hands on healing in person. I haven't really got the kick yet to start it back on. I do distance healing, where it is still kind of through my hands. But I now use my hands to feel stuff. So if I'm on a site, I am putting my hands on everything.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I can,
I relate. I don't have the experience you do of feeling electricity, and my hands are generally cold, but I feel drawn to put my hands on, old trees or plants and people
mhm.
who I know, and I don't present myself as a healer, but I put my hands on them with their permission, because I feel as if something's going to flow through me. But that's intuitive more than actual feeling of any tingling in my hands. I've also been having, and you have freed me for this because I haven't hung out with many clairvoyant people before, but to dare to name possible gifts that are not ordinary, like being able to imagine a person on the other side communicating with a message to the person I'm with. Um, um, and that's, I feel like, okay, I'm not going to do any harm because I'm not going to say anything controversial like, oh, your Aunt Marion is saying you must divorce your husband immediately, right? But, so the messages that I share are usually common sense love messages that, one would assume was coming from the other side. And I say, look, anyone could probably tell you the same thing, but I'm feeling drawn to share this with you.
I think we really underestimate the energetic nature of our beings.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're so distracted, Hayley. You know, we've got, you know, a zillion things that are demanding our attention. You know, everything from videos of a woman beating a bear off the fence that's going to attack her dog, to, you know, the election in Israel, to, you know, the denial of, I mean, it's just, it goes, it's every day, all day, including the garden needs watering, and you have to, you know, you have to rush to the grocery, you haven't picked up the cleaning. And so you think, all right, so when am I supposed to be in touch with these feelings? You know, because I got a lot on my plate.
Yeah, it's a humility is my way of dealing with that right now. And I think just as much as we underestimate the energetic nature of our beings, I think we underestimate how much of our day we are being energetic beings and trusting the energy of our being.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So when we're running around and doing these things, we don't really give ourselves credit that we're just in the flow and we're doing things because we know they're the right things to do. We're not really having to plan it, put a whole lot of thought into it. We're just doing it.
And we're doing it kindly.
We're doing it kindly. So I think, you know, there's this whole idea of standardizing mindfulness and awareness and meditation and energy medicine, I think brings us to a place where it puts it in a box where anything that is not exactly that is wrong, or you're not doing it right. And we go into a space of disciplining. So, you know, just being in the flow can easily be confused with being on autopilot. And rather than stopping to say, maybe I'm actually in the flow and maybe I am being present, but in a way that is joyful and is kind and compassionate, we automatically attach to, oh my God, I'm on autopilot and I'm not even aware and all this kind of stuff. I think, you know, I hope where we're going as a society is that A, we can be kinder to ourselves and the labels that we're giving each other and ourselves, but that we can also have a bit more humility in terms of, okay, if you're going to believe in that, then you kind of need to believe on the other side too, just as much.
Meaning what?
If you're going to believe in autopilot, you also have to believe in the flow.
The flow from the higher power?
Yeah, and the energetic side of it. If you're going to believe in mindfulness, you also have to believe in being completely influenced.
I had an interesting experience I wanted to share with you. Ray and I went to an event, and during the event, there were some sharp words from a relative that I expected a different response from. And my feelings got hurt, and I had a hard time letting go of it. And when I came home, walking the dog, I realized that my ego I could really see and observe how my ego was trying to step in and say, you know, well, you never should have been treated like that. You know, you just, you know, had a book made into a movie, and you just, you know, they shouldn't have talked to you like that. You've been so kind to them over the years. And I thought, oh, wow. In some ways, you're trying to take care of me, you know, ego. But I'm also getting, if I go that way and build up my wall, my defenses, saying, you know, well, you know, you don't know, you know, what I've done, you know, you should. So I'm just going to go back to that circle around myself of, you know, who I have been and am in the world. And rather than do that, my awareness, which says, I mean, I haven't always been this way, said, hey, wait, you know, there's some spiritual lessons to learn here. Why are you hurt? You know, what transpired? Can you look at it from a different angle? And, but hurt feelings are hard to let go of, and
And,
feelings of injustice are hard to let go of.
and they're deep in ourselves. So I
Yeah.
think, we were talking about this energy that we're in now, this eclipse window, is very much putting that in front of us right now. Don't be the contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
Have humility, and humility means that you're neutral.
And that's, that one of the things I realized is that as much work as you put into your spiritual path, there's no guarantee that it's going to be there when you face a crisis.
And that is, I'm so glad that you're speaking about this, because that has been my learning too over the last couple days. Has been that sort of like, man, I thought I was better than this.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd worked through this. I thought I wouldn't be as crippled, because it does feel, for me at least, when I have those kind of triggers, it does feel crippling.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I jump to, shouldn't we already be through this? Shouldn't you already have figured out how to not be triggered by this and to stay neutral? And it is
And there's some shaming in that.
There's definitely shaming in it. There's immediate straight to discipline before we'll sit and comfort ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And really what we need is the comfort, to be able to be like, all right, I see, like, give yourself some time to sit there and be like, ow, that hurt.
No, and we have
attention first.
I have the advantage in my mind. There are disadvantages to it, but I have the advantage of having a life partner who's also on a spiritual path, with whom I can bounce off feelings and observations and get feedback. It's more challenging for you, I would imagine, and yet I have less private time to go sit.
It's not necessarily more challenging, because where I am on my path, and even though I am alone, like live alone, where I am on my path, the awareness that I am triggered and the awareness of what I'm doing is immediate. It doesn't mean it stops it. It's just, oh, I know what's going on here. So I have that. If I go into the place like, where I'm not quite sure how my body is reacting to energy, I have a few friends that I call or I'll message and be like, weird stuff's happening. Do I need a straitjacket, or is anybody else feeling this? So I have that level of validation from a few of my friends that are similarly impacted. So when I feel like I'm freaking out, I'll send a message out and somebody will be like, I couldn't even get out of bed today. I'm like, oh, thank God. But it's, the awareness is there, and having that validation from within is immediate for me, albeit I still go down that rabbit hole. I still go down that thing of like, this is so unfair, and why am I still here, and that pity party. It's there.
Yeah.
It's there. And I think,
I'm twice your age almost, but it doesn't, it gets easier, but it doesn't go away. It's still there.
Part of our path as a human, is to fully unravel out of all of these triggers, so that the times that we are triggered and the times that we have that pity party, that discipline party, is easier, shorter, and less frequent.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you can say that you're on the right path, that you're doing the right thing, because for me at least, I can definitely tell over the last 3 years, I've definitely made progress. So lighten up a bit.
And mine, what I'm feeling is, okay, maybe you need to do a little more time meditating, or, you're not feeling as centered as you like to feel. I like to feel centered. I want to be Yoda.
Life is much easier when you're centered. It really is.
Yeah. But it's easy to get tipped off, especially by people that you love. right?
They're the best at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can dismiss people like Mitch McConnell and his behavior because I don't love him, don't assume he loves me. I don't love him in the way that I love family and friends.
Right.
But when somebody that you love hurts you or disappoints you, that's harder to get your feet back on the ground.
It's harder, and it brings up that whole topic about love. Love is love.
Love is love, and it ebbs and flows, right?
But is that really love if it ebbs and flows?
Well, I think it's still love because it's still there. People would say, I love you. They wouldn't say, but their behavior isn't as loving as you expected, right? As kind as you expect, as thoughtful as you expected.
The expectations.
The Buddha would, taught that your expectations create suffering.
We're having such a great combo. I so appreciate you. Part of my journey this week in trying to understand why I was so triggered and why I'm still triggered to that level, and also what this eclipse is trying to help me with. Because, side note, even though it's tough energy, even though it's forcing us to look at stuff that we're like not so great at, it is trying to help us to be better. It's trying to help us to get closer to who we really are and ultimately better humans overall. So I've been looking at this, and a lot of it has been, for me, don't be the contradiction, walk the talk. So some of that has been, it's really important for me to be centered. It's really important for me to prioritize my meditation time. Mm-hmm. I very easily can be like, oh, I'll work instead of meditating. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll definitely put a person in the morning because they want to chat versus right. Meditation. So one of my lessons out of this, window has been, got to get stronger on those boundaries, not on that person, on me. Uh-huh. The other thing has been love, unconditional love, and looking at both sides and being able to say, I love you just as much as I love that. Both sides deserve love, mm-hmm. But maybe my expectations, number one, are completely unacceptable. And number two, maybe I don't know enough.
Expectations of yourself as well as the other person.
Usually it's expectations of the other person. So if I look at my parents, and I have been looking at parental relationships across the board, it's mm-hmm. been a big topic probably over the last 2 months with many of the people that I talk to, many of my clients. And I think that we expect an enormous amount out of our parents. Just the word parents puts them on a pedestal that is so high and almost unattainable for any normal human being. We're asking our parents to embody divine qualities, that it's an entire hero's journey to embody those. Mm-hmm.
And they may not have a clue what you're talking about.
And that's the expectation, is that, we look at these humans that are trying to figure out their own stuff in their own way. And we're looking at them as these divine beings that are greater than any other human on the planet. And then we get upset when they don't really show up that way. Mm-hmm.
So we have expectations of what it means to be a mom or a dad.
Yeah. And I think, on both sides of that, my love is, I love you for being a human. I love you.
And you're doing the best you can.
You're doing the best you can.
Yeah.
There's also love on the other side of that, which is your best really isn't where I am. So I'm going to now love me to say I'm coming out of that. Mm-hmm.
I know you're doing, without even saying it, because once you say it, you put the person on the defensive. But in your mind, I know they're doing their best. I know they have a story that explains their behavior, if not excuse it. And I don't need to have them feel judgment from me, because if they haven't asked for an opinion, why am I interfering with them? But I can pull back.
Yeah.
I can change my expectations, and I can remove myself from a situation that pushes all my buttons. And it's not the fault of the other person.
It's really not.
Hmm.
And I think that's when you can start really exploring love and the unconditional nature of love. So the other way that I've been working on it this last month, I guess, has been with the whole Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And early on in my life, I was pro-Israeli. But like as a child, as a teenager, I was like pro-Israeli, really took their side in all of it. And then I started informing myself a bit more and switched to pro-Palestinian. And when this whole thing blew up, it really made me sit back and be like, all right, don't be the contradiction. How are you going to love unconditionally in this situation? So, and what I've realized, at least in my journey in questioning this and questioning it and trying to find out more information from both sides of it, is that I still unconditionally love the humans, regardless of what side of the fence you're on. I unconditionally love you. Mm-hmm. What I have a problem with is the policies.
And Ray likes to talk about the news and the outrageous things that, did you see what so-and-so said? And I read it to be informed, but I don't allow myself to go emotionally too deeply into it, because I have absolutely no influence over it. So I can influence how I talk with you about it, and I can suggest to you, alternative ways of thinking if you are interested. I'm not talking about you right now, but I don't have the power to change the policy in Israel.
We don't right now.
We don't ever. We're not in the Knesset. We're not even Israeli citizens to vote for somebody, right?
And I think that's where it's really, where you kind of have love too, is like, I understand that this is not something I can do anything about. So why would I have a really bad day and get upset about this when there's nothing I can do to fix any of that? But what I can do is make sure that I am not the contradiction, that I am walking the talk, and I can influence my circle. And if they have questions, I can try and help them to also be neutral, be grounded, to choose love for humanity first. And I think that's what's eventually going to lead to the change, but it is going to take a long time and a lot of healing and it's not just Israel, Palestine. There are all sorts of little turf wars throughout this world. That
in our cul-de-sac, in our in our neighborhood, that's where we have influence.
So I think it is, context, key, humility, to really bring it down to, okay, what can you do right now? And it does. What can you do in your home? What can you do in your cul-de-sac? What can you do in your community, your town? And it doesn't mean that you have to go out there and, create a activist forum. You just need to make sure first that you're not the contradiction.
Right. That you're modeling, right? The messenger is the message, that you're modeling your values.
Yeah.
And people can and will say, I really admire how you respond. Where do you get the strength to do that? Or how can you be so loving to people who have done such and such to you? And you don't have the answer, because all you do is say, well, hating doesn't do any good. It's never gonna. Hating someone, as they say, is like drinking poison, hoping they die.
And you're not going to change everybody's mind too. So that goes back to the whole expectations. I've had the wonderful honor of having conversations with people on extreme sides. And some of those conversations are a joy because we're able to kind of come off the extreme and come closer to the middle and have a really good conversation where it's peaceful, it's balanced. And there's been other conversations where it's literally like, you don't know what you're talking about, and I will not speak to you because you're not agreeing with me.
Uh-huh.
And in those cases, it's just like, it's okay. Those
Right.
people aren't ready to listen yet. And part of the love, the unconditional love, is saying, even though you're not ready to listen to me yet, or you're not ready to see anything different, I still honor and respect that you're a human. You have the
Yeah.
same rights that I have. I still love you. I may
Would you
not want
like
to
a,
be around you, but I
yeah.
still love you.
Would you like a cup of tea before you leave?
Yeah. I would love it if we had that kind of world. Don't want to be around you, but here, have some chocolate.
Have it, yeah. But I really do, yeah, but I really do need to be moving
I
on.
really do.
Yeah, I have some commitments, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think if we allow people graceful exits, right?
Yeah.
And just say, I don't need you to say you were wrong, right? But I do need to feel from you an awareness of how your behavior impacted me.
Yeah. And I think our greatest relationships, and I feel like this at my point in life, that people in the relationships that I am calling to me, and you being one of them, Ray being one of them, are those relationships that the love is there first, that the respect, the reverence for love is there first.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when we talk about progress on our path, yeah, we can get triggered and have a bit of a tantrum about it. And then we're like, okay, give me some time. I'm fine. I'm coming back. But the progress there is okay. Those are shorter, as we've explained. But the progress is also seeing the people that you're surrounded with now.
Well, I was in the garden before our call, trying to address the impact of us not being here for 5-6 days, and some plants are gone, and I thought, okay, like your spiritual path, which you're concerned about, it takes time, and we'll do a little every day.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be back to perfect today. Just do what you can today, and then come in when you start to feel like it's too much, and do something else, and then come back to it. Same way with your spiritual path.
Yeah. And I think, again, expectations. It took 5 or 6 days for your garden to kind of stall, or things to kind of shift a little bit.
Right.
It's going to take 5 days for it to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But we sit there and we're like, this will all be done today.
Right. I want it done. I want it back. Because I can't I can't take on new things until everything is perfect.
Right. And I do the same thing, ironically, with, when I have retreats here. I take my important, not necessarily important, but I take my scheduled calls and readjust them a little bit. But if it's a one-off, they have to get pushed to the next week. And as soon as the retreat's over, I'm like, okay, everybody come on in. And I try and get everybody on the first day, and I'm exhausted. And it's just like, you're not gonna recover.
Right. And you're not giving them your best.
You're not giving them your best, but it's also, time is such a weird concept.
Mm.
We worry about things that have happened in the past, and we really don't pay attention to what we're creating now. Everything good that happens, we're just like, oh, that was great. But everything bad that happens, we sit in with it and just like, oh, time. And if I had only done something different, then I would have had time to do this and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, I think, being in that spiritual practice, being in the meditation is being able to really be present with what you are creating.
And also, I think, to pull yourself up, like a bird going higher and higher, and take a look at what's going on in relation to the past and in relation to the future, right? So you're gonna die, right? How important is what you're spinning your wheels about? How important is it in that scenario of what you've done, how long you've lived, how long you have? So how much attention do you really want to give this?
And I call that do what's important to you. So there are 3 questions that I live by and try and do as much as possible during the day. And just checking in. So where am I? Becoming fully aware of my location. What am I doing? Is it important to me?
So here I am in Wilton Manors. I'm on a podcast call with my friend Hayley Evans, and it's something I really want to do.
And enjoy it.
And enjoy it.
Yeah.
And not worry about.
Not worry about it, because this is a meditation.
Mm-hmm.
This is a spiritual sacred moment. When you are in a place of joy, it's a spiritual sacred moment. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I've been working through this week, and especially after my trigger, was trying to change my mindset from the worst case scenario happening, because those are my triggers. I will forget about everything else that could possibly go right and just be like, this is the only thing that's going to happen.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So for context, what I found out this week or last week was the greatest fear I have is having to go home because I failed. Go back to my parents and failed. And this is one of the things that my parents always used to say to us was, when everything goes wrong and you have to crawl back home, then you'll know how important we are. So that's always stuck in my head. And that's one of my biggest triggers, is when something goes wrong, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to crawl back home and admit complete failure and admit that they're right.
And what are they right about?
That I couldn't do anything without them. That I need.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I didn't get that message from my parents. I got the message that you're always welcome.
Yeah.
But it was never an indicate. When coming home was never they never used it to say, see, we told you shouldn't have done that. Even in the midst of my hunger fast and, all the press about me getting fired, even with all of that, I was, expected, encouraged, welcome to the Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving table. And as was my brother, who divorced, his wife and 5 kids the same time I came out publicly. And we were all at the table. So first of all, Hayley, if you find that you fail, you come to my house. You don't have to go to your parents' house.
This is what I learned. Thank you very much, Brian. And I will come to your house anytime.
Yeah, you don't have to fail to come to my house.
No. But what I learned, over this week, and being able to just sit with that and be like, all right, identified what the trigger is, identified what the words are, the feeling. How do we now train and sort of reframe it so that every cell in my body stops going to that point? And it has been, for me, looking at the truth. The fact is, I healed all of that. I have completed it. That possibility no longer exists. Mm-hmm. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. So I can let go of it.
Even if you have just one apple in the refrigerator.
You know what? If I have just one apple in the refrigerator, I know for sure something amazing is about to happen.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to keep remembering, is every time I get a little flustered, it's always at the precipice of something amazing happening.
Mhm.
And there's a meme, I don't know if you've seen it, where there's like, it's a cartoon, and on one side, both of them are two men digging in a tunnel.
Mhm.
And on one side, the guy gives up. And just on the other side of that is all of the gold, all of the diamonds that he wants. And on the other side, the guy keeps going and he gets the gold, he gets the diamonds. And I think that's what we need to focus on, is like, every time you're ready to give up, that's really a good signal that just keep going. There's something really amazing on the other side.
Mhm.
Best case scenario.
And don't spend too much time thinking about what other people are thinking about you, because they're not.
And not for the right reasons either.
They're not thinking about you. They've got their own life, you know.
Really do.
Even parents with kids, they've got their own life.
Yeah.
You know, they have work, they have, you know, soap operas, they have, you know,
And again,
hobbies.
humility, you know.
Yeah.
People aren't thinking about you. And if they are talking about you, that's really awesome, because it means that you're doing something right.
Hayley, this is personal and you don't need to answer it, but we've decided to record everything.
Mhm.
So with your folks, because we talked about them when you and I first got together, if something happened, if one of them died suddenly, would you have regrets about your relationship with them or things that have not been said?
No,
Good.
no. And that was a huge part of my healing of that relationship. And understanding, you know, part of that is understanding that we put these enormous expectations on our parents. And part of that too, you know, I do firmly believe that this life for me is all about coming back to who I really am, and being in the moment and creating more moments that allow me to be the fullest expression of my divine soul. And for me to do that, I have to put boundaries around myself.
Is there anybody in your family that's proud of you?
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't.
Is that a need or a desire?
No.
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 To have your mom or dad call and say, Hayley, I'm really proud of you?
No. I think there's a need. I think maybe for an apology.
Oh.
You know,
And
but
what
I say that, I'm like, is there really? But I think there is, like, there's that little girl in me that would love to just hear, like, hey, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for what? For doubting you?
I'm sorry for, like, doing some really shitty things.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry that there have been very specific events where the full intention was to annihilate me and to get me to that point to crawl back home and be like, okay, I messed up, I'm so sorry, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where there's a part of me where I just like an acknowledgement that wasn't the best. I'm sorry, that wasn't the best behavior.
Mm.
And then, you know, when I say that, I have to look on myself too. Would I be willing to offer an apology? Absolutely. You know, because my apology on that side is my expectations were so high, and in me wanting you to see me for me, I wasn't really willing to see you for who you were.
And have you made that apology?
No.
Well, it sounds like something that would be quite liberating to do.
I think it will, the time will come for that.
Yeah.
When will that time be? I don't know.
Hayley, while we were in the Bahamas, and I didn't make the connection until later, but I met this very elegant, I'm sure 80 plus woman who was from Zimbabwe, whose farm was taken from them by the government, with saying that your forefathers stole it from our people, so we're giving it back to the people. And she and I talked about how you can live your life as a victim, being, angry, hoping bad things happen to the leadership of the country so that they learn their lesson. They shouldn't have done this to us. But she'll die before there's ever an apology from the government to the white farmers that, that they took the property away from. And all of us have the choice, because bad things have happened to all of us, relatively, that we can either take a look at it, try to understand it, but let go of it, or hang on to it. And if we hang on to it, we're not going to get very far.
We're not going to get very far. And I think it's just, we create. We are the center. We are the creators.
Mm-hmm.
That is part of our divine right, to create with whatever we have. And it is always our choice to create the world that we want to be a part of.
Do you know the story of it's just a metaphor, but the story of the person crossing the bridge? Do we have time for a story?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got lots of time. I mean, 15 minutes, but how that will be like an hour for us.
Yeah. Okay. So this person is on one side of a great chasm, living a pretty miserable life, not happy with anything that's going on, and has been given all the encouragement to understand that if they'll only cross this bridge, do you know the story?
No.
Across the chasm, on the other side, are people waiting to welcome them, applaud them, cheer them on, help them, and the life they've always wanted is there. And so they get up the courage to leave the familiar, which is hard, and they head out on their hero's journey, crossing the bridge. And as about 3/4 of the way there, this person rushes up to them and hands them the end of a rope, and then jumps over the bridge, hanging over this chasm, and says, "You have to hold on to the rope or I'll die." He said, "Wait, I don't even know you. Why did you do that? Doesn't matter why I did it. If you let go of me, I'll die." Right? And so you're holding the rope, knowing that the life you want is ahead of you, knowing that this is not something, that you chose to have happen. And the question is, for all of us, what's at the end of our rope that's stopping us from moving forward?
Yeah.
What's holding us back? That we feel that if we let go of it, we're responsible for its death. But if we don't, we're responsible for our own.
Our own death. That's a really good metaphor for human life.
Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because often I'll hear people say, "Oh, I can't come out until my mother dies because it would kill her." So their mother is at the end of their rope. And basically, it's a death wish, because they know they're only going to be happy when their mother dies. So they won't admit it, but they can't wait for it to happen.
We're such so simple yet so complex. It's it's hard, and I respect that they're hard decisions, and it's panicky and it's chaotic, and I can respect it because I've sat there and I've let go of the rope a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more, and just kind of felt out the waters and been like, "We're okay." Let go a little bit more. Okay, we're okay. Let go a little bit more. And sometimes you're like, okay, maybe I can try and inch forward a little bit closer to that crowd. So it is a journey, and I think it requires understanding, respect. Some of the words that really, really were profound and really helped me was when I heard, "I'm sorry that happened to you."
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we could, for me at least, I try and be very conscious of saying that word or those words together rather than saying, "I'm so sorry, what can I do?"
Well, can you say both? I mean, I love hearing, I'm really sorry that happened to you, because it means that the person gets it. And I say it a lot. I'm really sad. I'm sad
Yeah.
to hear. Sometimes you say, I'm sorry that happened to you. And people say, well, you didn't do it, so why are you sorry? So, all right. So I'm sad to hear that happened to you.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I can do to be of comfort or support?
I definitely think they can go together.
Uh-huh.
And I think,
But I agree with you that the cognition, and going back incidentally to the person on the bridge with the rope, we can be holding on to ourselves at the end of the rope. It's us that put the rope in the hands and said, you can't let go or I'll die.
I really think like 9 times out of 10, it's actually us at the end of the rope.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
we're afraid to let go of it because we know that guy or that woman, that person. We know them. They're comfortable. We've been around them a long time.
they're also the most vulnerable, weakest parts of us that we feel like need the most protection.
Mm-hmm. It can be a bottle of booze at the end of the rope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cocaine, heroin,
Could be watching TV,
fame.
working out. Could be fame.
Mm-hmm. That you have to have fame in order to be happy.
Yeah. Or significance.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a really interesting word, because I do believe that every living soul, Hayley, wants to know that their life had significance. They don't want to die feeling that they lived an insignificant life.
Yeah, I don't think it was Machiavelli, but I want to say that there's one of those great philosophers, not Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins uses this, but it definitely came before Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Where the critical human need, the top critical human need is significance. And right below that is certainty.
Well, you know what's fun, Hayley, for me, is that all of us who are on this journey, without having read that sentence, can come up with the same understanding before we hear it from Tony Robbins.
Yeah. And I think it's a fundamental truth, and it's not one that you're ashamed of. Like, am I ashamed that I would like significance? No.
No, but what is significance to you, and what's the price for it?
And I think that's where it goes down into something more, because at least for me, significance has spectrums too. There can be significance where you aren't concerned at all, and you reach that level where you're almost at enlightenment, I guess. And then there's significance on the other side, which to me is the dirty, dirty politicians.
Uh-huh.
So finding that nice balance in between, and where I am right now, significance is still important. It may not be I need significance from my parents, but I absolutely need validation from other people that what I'm doing is helpful. And that's significance. That is significance.
Yeah, I got pretty confident that what I was saying and writing was helpful, but I got that confidence by hearing it over and over again from people.
Yeah.
And then I like hearing it. It's lovely to hear, but I don't need to hear it in order to believe that what I'm saying or doing. I mean, I'm not even relying on what I did in the past, but what I'm doing now, has significance, that it's making a difference in someone's life or in the planet.
Yeah. What is yours? So What would you say is your like significance thing right now?
Well, the most significant thing to the croton that I watered last night was that I came home from the walk with the dog and bothered to pull out the hose instead of going to bed and watered it because it was wilting. That's significant, right? I think I told you I've got, when we were talking to Janine last week, that a man wrote, and this was not uncommon and it's very dramatic, but to say that, I was going to kill myself until I read or heard you. I mean, that's a wonderful significance. I know that my life, my living is significant to Ray. It gives him reason to want to keep dealing with his pain, which is so awful. I think a lot of times we don't know what our significance is. That we don't know, we sort of have an idea, but we don't know that we changed the day of the person in the grocery store by letting them go ahead of us because they only had 3 items.
And maybe we should start doing this more. Like maybe Christmas or birthdays should be more about you are significant in my life.
Well, I'll tell you, I every day on Facebook, there are days that I cringe because I'm racing and I don't want to do it. But every day I take the opportunity to wish, all the people they list having birthdays. And generally I say, I take a look at what they've posted to see, I shouldn't have anybody in my friend group that isn't somebody that I would want to spend time with, because I shouldn't have accepted them as a friend if I didn't. But I'll look at what they're up to, and I'll generally say, thank you for the abundant goodness in your heart and in your life, as opposed to happy birthday. And with people who I think, boy, you've done a lot, I'll say, thank you for your bold, generous life of loving kindness. Again, not happy birthday. And some people will write back saying, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
I think we should switch it up.
And you know what, Hayley? And I have had the fantasy of people coming to me saying, I can't believe you said that. And that birthday wish, that person is not very nice. Why would, and my thought is, well, you know what? Maybe my message will make them nicer. Maybe my message will be thinking, oh, there is a way to be, have loving kindness in your life.
Love. They still deserve your message. They still deserve love.
They deserve the message. And for some, it's spot on. And for others, maybe it's an inspiration.
Yeah. I've taken a very interesting look at birthdays and as well as Christmas too. And the whole concept of trying to make it more personal for me rather than just I don't speak to you for, apart from the birthdays where we say happy birthday and that's it. There's never a how are you or anything like that. So for me, birthdays are a work in progress. If I know your birthday and you're in my friend group, which is my family group, you'll absolutely get a birthday. But I also try and send, anytime if I'm thinking about somebody, I try and send them a message then just to be like, hey, I'm thinking of you.
Oh, that's
I want you to know that you impacted my life. Or if they recommended a book or something to me, I always send a message like, I'm reading your book. Thank you for recommending it. And I want you to know that you inspired me to buy this book and read it.
I try with people on birthdays, with people that are in, that inner circle of friends, and it's a big circle, but I try to write the message the night before their birthday and send it the night before, because once it's your birthday and you get all these messages and you think, oh God, I got to spend the day acknowledging them. You don't spend enough time reading and taking in all the lovely things that people are saying to you.
Taking in your significance.
So I try to, put it in the day before so they take the time to read it and think, oh, that's really nice. That makes me feel good.
I know we give Facebook and all of these social media companies a lot of flack and blame a lot of the world's problems on them. One of the great things about Facebook, which I do miss, is the way that it tracks birthdays.
Oh, are you not on Facebook?
I use Facebook sparingly. I'm really not on it unless I need something for Merida, because Merida and all of the expat groups here, or the weather, the news, is all posted on Facebook. So if something's going on, I'll go and check Facebook. But I shut down my entire Facebook page, and with that was all of the birthdays. So now I have to rely on, like, you have to tell me your birthday, and I have to put it in my phone, so my phone reminds me.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, one of the greatest things that came out of Facebook was connecting people, but also being able to track all of those birthdays.
Yeah. Well, for about 2 weeks, that Facebook didn't send me any notifications for birthdays. I was having like withdrawal, thinking, oh my God.
You're like, something's wrong.
Yeah, some people are going to think that I don't care about them. They're going to notice, that they got 400 birthday wishes, but mine wasn't there.
The things we worry about. Well, my dear Brian, we are out of time today.
Well, I love our time, Hayley.
I thoroughly love our time, and I'm so grateful for you, and you are hugely significant in my life. I'm very blessed.
Thank you for saying that. It means the world to me. And you are also for me. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't really love you, right? I mean, this is a chunk of time. Mm-hmm. It's an hour. We don't know whether anyone's listening, but we didn't do it because people, we didn't do it because we hoped for ad revenue. We recorded because we wanted to share the joy that we were experiencing with each other.
We kind of did it for significance. Because this makes me feel really good. It sets me up for at least the rest of the day, the rest of the week.
Good.
And that is completely altruistic.
Yeah. And whenever Ray or I get off the phone with you, the other will ask, how was it? It was great.
Amazing. I'm so blessed. And yes, both are a light in my life, and definitely one of those beacons that you're doing everything right. Keep going.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you.
Love you.
And we'll speak to you soon.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.